Hello viewers, today we are going to discuss what is a Precis and how to make a good one. Before we come to the real meaning of the word Precis, let's see what the dictionary says about this word. This word has come from French, which means to make precise, to compress, and to make brief a longer passage. It presents the main ideas given in a piece of writing. A Precis is a summary. It is a digest, a shortened version of a long utterance. It includes all that is relevant and excludes all that is unimportant or irrelevant. What is the need of writing Precis? This question strikes us often. So, the answer may be we don't have much time. We are cutting short of time. We don't have time enough to ponder over a subject for a very long period. That's why we make use of Precis. Precis is a performing art which requires intensive practice, concentration, and the power to select and the decision to delete, to omit, which is not relevant. Now, let's see what are the main features of a good Precis. The Precis, it is brief. In fact, it should be 1/3 of the original length of the original utterance. Precis must include as few words as possible. Meaning must be put in as few words as possible. We should try it. Then the second point, the second feature of a good Precis is third person. If in the text or in the given paragraph, first person and second person constructions are used, these constructions should be converted into third person construction. That is the most important thing while doing Precis. The third feature is indirect speech. We should try to make it indirect. We should try to skip the direct speech or the quotation marks, right? Next feature of a good Precis is no examples, no repetitions. We should avoid examples which are used in the given passage. Repetitions can be avoided, or we can cut it short. If these are required, the examples are required, we should cut it short, right? And the references, the repetitions and the references should also be avoided. The next point which comes in this section, the features of a good Precis, is simple language. The language which we are using while precising a paragraph should be simple. It should be original, it should be coherent, there should not be any ornamentation, right, and no figurative language should be used. Actually, we should avoid all the figures of speech, right. Suppose simile is there, we can avoid that simile. Metaphor is used, we can avoid that metaphor, right. And then no personal ideas and opinions. One should try while doing Precis that he should not make use of his own personal comments and opinions. Even if we don't like the what the writer says, we should not impose ourselves in that utterance. It is his ideas, the writer's ideas, not ours. So, whatever is written, we have to make that utterance small, summarize that. Don't give too much of your personal self. Suppose if the writer says that he doesn't like books, he hates books, and you will say that how can a person hate books? But what is required? You are not supposed to give your feelings, your personal opinions. So, we can skip over that. Then active voice. The next feature is active voice. Suppose in the text passive voice is used, we can change that passive utterance into an active one. How to make Precis? What are the rules which should be followed? So, while doing Precis, rules which come into the foreground are first person construction and second person construction must be changed into third person construction. I just cite an example. I went to Delhi last month. I went to Delhi last month. When we are summarizing this line, I must be changed into he. So, the construction will be he went to Delhi. He went to Delhi. Right? He went to Delhi last month. One more example. You should do your duties. This second person must be changed into third person and the sentence will be one should do one's duty. The second rule is convert direct speech into indirect speech. If we have direct utterances, we must change those utterances, those sentences, those exclamations into indirect speech. For example, Ram said to Raj, quotes, I have done my work. The construction will be Ram told Raj that he had done his work. Then we should prefer active voice. Suppose we have a sentence in passive. The sentence is the work has been done by Harish. The work has been done by Harish. Harish has done the work. Harish has done the work. Then another rule is avoid examples or repetitions. For example, we have this sentence, the history of India has witnessed many battles. For example, the battle of Panipat, Plassey, Buxar, etc. What we are supposed to do in this sentence is to delete this example, right? We can do this in this sentence in this way. The history of India has witnessed many battles. The history of India has witnessed many battles. So, we must delete the examples or the repetitions. Use of simple language and make short sentences. The sentences which we make while Precis writing, we must write simple as well as short sentences. You must avoid the use of long sentences and utterances. Suppose here is one sentence, the last and not the least important way in which science has changed people and made them more civilized is by making them more tolerant. It is a very long sentence. Let us see how to cut it short. So, we can write it in this way: science has made people civilized, full stop. It has made them, or you can use it has taught them, it has taught them to become more tolerant. Right. Now, we come to the next rule, which says stick to the writer's point of view only and avoid personal comments and opinions, even if you don't agree with him. As I have earlier mentioned, that we should try to make use of the personal comments. Here we are not supposed to write our own opinions or what we think of some topic or some issue. What the writer says, that should be our main concern. So, try to avoid your personal opinions and views. The next rule says, which is the most important one I think, that suggest a suitable title of the passage. Once you are through with your précis, you must look out for a very good title. The title which is the touchstone of a good précis. It should convey the whole idea, the theme, what the writer wants to convey. Regarding title, I must tell you that it should be brief. Try to make it as brief as possible. First thing. Second thing, we should avoid the use of small letters, especially in the case of first letters. Suppose I have the title, character is destiny. Character is destiny. Now, here you just see I have used capital C and capital D. This I have kept smaller. We can say like this, that prepositions and conjunctions, if there are any in the title, those need not be written in capitals. For that, for prepositions and conjunctions, we can use small letters also. Right. Other thing is use of punctuation mark. Never try to put a full stop when you are writing a title. Right. Then, regarding title, one thing more, we can look out for the title in the key sentences of the paragraph. Either the first sentence is the key sentence or the last sentence is the key sentence. So, if we try to locate what should be the title, we should first see the first line and the last one. We can get the title from these two lines, or even if you are not you are not able to locate the title in these two lines, we can get the idea what the paragraph is all about. So, we can use our own thinking, what we are getting out of that paragraph, and convert that thinking into 2 or 3 words, because it should be brief as possible. But brevity does not mean that your idea is missing, right. So, try to make it brief, but it should not lose its sense. How to make a good précis? What are the steps required while writing a précis? What we are supposed to do when we are given a paragraph for writing précis, what we should do? The first step should be, we should read that passage intensively, right. We should give it a single reading, then another reading, and when we are through with your readings twice and thrice, the idea will become clearer to you. So, reading part is the must. The second step is, when we are through with the reading part, we must underline the main points. What are the main points in a paragraph, in an utterance, and we must underline those main points. Then we should apply the rules and rewrite the main points in a paragraph form. Give it a suitable title or heading. But I advise that when we are through with the first draft of Precis, we must give it a second thought, whether some points are not missing, right? Whether we have made clear what the writer wants to say, to convey. And for that, you can redraft the Precis, right? For better understanding how to make Precis, let's just see a paragraph. Just have a look at this utterance. The last and not the least important way in which science has changed people and made them more civilized is by making them more tolerant. A tolerant person is one who doesn't interfere with other people, even if he thinks they are wrong, but is prepared to let them think what they like and say what they think. If he thinks they are wrong, he may try to persuade them to believe differently, but he will not try to force them. This may not seem a very important point, but a great deal of the misery of mankind in the past has sprung from people being unwilling to tolerate other people thinking differently from themselves. This tolerance has been particularly common in religious matters. All over the Western world, for instance, people have killed and tortured other people for not believing the same thing as they did about the nature of God and Jesus and the Virgin Mary. So, here is the utterance. This utterance has approximately 160 words. Now, suppose this paragraph is given to you for making Precis. What we are supposed to do, we will give it a reading, a second reading and a third reading if required, right. Then we should take individual sentences. Suppose the first sentence was, the last and not the least important way in which science has changed people and made them more civilized is by making them more tolerant. Now, this is, as you can see, it is a very long sentence. So, what we are supposed to do, we will cut this sentence short first of all, and what is the main point the writer wants to convey in this line. Suppose the first line is science, one point is science, he has discussed science. The other point is science has changed, it has changed people, right, it has made them civilized, the first line says. So, we can write this line, this sentence this way. Science has made man civilized. It has taught him to become tolerant or more tolerant. Science has made man civilized, it has taught him to become more tolerant. Then we come to the second line, which says, a tolerant person is one who doesn't interfere with other people even if he thinks they are wrong, but is prepared to let them think what they like and say what they think. So, in the second line, the main focus is who is a tolerant person and how does he behave. So, we can write this utterance, this sentence this way. A tolerant person gives freedom of thought and action to others. A tolerant person gives freedom of thought and action to others, right? Then the next part says, this may not seem a very important point, but a great deal of the misery of mankind in the past has sprung from people being unwilling to tolerate other people thinking differently from themselves. The history says that the absence of tolerance resulted in misery. The next line, let us see what does this say. This intolerance has been particularly common in religious matters. Now, he is talking of religion. So, we must focus in our utterance about religion. He says that religion, in the matter of religion, when people become fanatics, they do not want to allow others to say or believe what they want to say or believe. And this line can be put this way. Especially the religious minded persons don't have this tolerance which often result in bloodshed. Now, we can skip God, Jesus and the mention, these references can be avoided. So, this is a rough draft, right. This paragraph has 160 words. Main points which we came across are science as a civilizing influence on people. You can write these main points on a rough sheet of paper. Second point, it makes them rational and tolerant. Third point, a tolerant person allows freedom of thought and speech. Fourth point, his methods are persuasion and logic rather than enforcing his ideas through violence. The last point is, in past mankind has suffered a lot due to religious intolerance. Now, keeping in view these main points, let us try to summarize this passage. Let us try to make a précis. So, this will be the précis, the final draft. It says, science has made man civilized, rational and tolerant. A tolerant person allows others freedom of thought and speech. He uses persuasion rather than violence to convince others. History shows that mankind has suffered much due to non-acceptance of others' ideas and beliefs. Religious intolerance has been the cause of much bloodshed in the past. And the total words which are used in this précis come to 55, which is almost the 1/3 of the original length. Now, we come to the other main important point, which is finding a suitable title. So, for this Precis, I have suggested 3 titles: Spirit of Tolerance, Science and the Spirit of Tolerance, and the role of science in promoting tolerance. Of these three titles, we can choose any one. I think the last one is the most suited one. Before I conclude, if you have any queries, any questions.
Don't you think that reducing the length of passage may take away some of its meaning?
A good question. Not at all. My answer is not at all, because in Precis we always try to include all the relevant things, and if relevance is there, the beauty of the passage will not be diminished at all, right? Any other query? Yes.
What should we do if we don't understand a particular term or word?
Intelligent question. Now, see, it is not necessary that we have the full knowledge of all the meanings, all the utterances. So, even if you are not getting the right meaning of a particular word, what we can do? We can read the whole sentence, right? We should read it once, twice, thrice, and some sense will be clear. So, do not waste too much of time in finding out the meaning, right? So, that is okay with you. So, before I conclude it, let us have a recap of today's exercise. Number 1, 1/3 of the total words. It should be 1/3 of the original length. The second is sentence transformation. We should try to transform sentence, like I have mentioned, direct speech, indirect speech, right? Active voice, passive voice. So, this type of transformation must be focused on. Then simple, clear and precise language. Always try to be simple, right? Always try to be precise and clear. Write short sentences. There is no need to write bombastic language, right? So, language should be clear and simple. Coherent and interesting reading. The idea should not be broken, right? A coherence should be there. There should be a train of thoughts. I agree that we are deleting some of the part of the original utterance, but still we should try to make it a coherent one. The Precis should be coherent and interesting. Now, the catchphrase of Precis, I conclude with this phrase: learn the right way and write the right way. That is what is Precis. So, I wish you good luck. Thank you so much.